Why does Mark McCartney need to see this Phil Pearlman and Jessica Yarmey clip? Well, you're going to have to see if he can guess. You can try to guess too. Watch long. And When Life Begins to Whisper, the great book by Sean DeLaney. It gets a mention. I need to atone in advance. You'll have to watch the full episode. Cultish Creative YouTube, out now. Check it out.
It's more about revealing or remembering something that's innate rather than creating or constructing something or adding on to what we already are.
This idea of reveal, not add. So like it's already there. Maybe it was always there. But you have to actually take away, not build stuff on top of it.
I was reading this Buddha for Dummies or Buddha for Beginners book or something. And this Western guy was like explaining Buddhism to other Western people who really can't grasp that the yin yang thing, the white and the black and the black and the white. And he was just like, enlightenment is just remembering.
It's been a guiding kind of principle book ever since.
I just start paying attention to the fluctuations of life. Like I really start paying attention to the people that I'm engaged with, paying attention to the seasons of nature, whatever it may be. When I do that, I feel far more in flow with life.
You're watching Just Press Record on the Cultish Creative YouTube channel. Welcome to another Oh Snap, Guess What I Saw episode where I bring back one incredible prior guest to show them a clip that they just needed to hear. So who's here in the hot seat with me today? Let's play more with the network, people. As a coach, he's the Marco Polo of mapping people's YOLOs. As a podcaster, he's the Sir Paul gone solo of, with a little luck, unpacking his guests' hits while they go for dolo. And as a silent retreat leader, he's, no disrespect to your Irishness on this one, I only did this for the rhyme, but as a silent retreat leader, he's got loyalty to the mission like a real beef eater. It's a joke 3 people are going to get anyway. I don't know why I'm upset. Back on Just Press Record, the sayer of my number one clip of 2024, the one and only Mr. Mark McCartney. Welcome back.
Matt, a joy as ever to be here, man. And if only for the intro, I'm delighted to be here.
Okay. Well, you get a new intro every time you come back. So
I know, I realize that now. Yeah, it's very impressive.
Well, I'm so happy you're with me. We are going to, in a minute, get into this clip that, our friends here, Phil Pearlman and Jessica Yarmey said. We're going to talk about it. You're going to try to guess what's on the other side of the card, why I felt like I needed to show you this clip. But first, you're my top clip of the year. I assume like all the accolades. Did you get all the champagne?
Yeah.
It's the parade that I sent you.
It's been really life-changing, Matt. I couldn't have foreseen this when I first joined you for that recording. So, here we are. Yeah.
Fantastic. And you and Sean DeLaney, did you guys get to connect after we had what candidly was, that's a conversation that is really, really stuck with me last year. You and Sean get to talk more?
Yeah, of course, man. It's like even in the recording, I told you straight away that I could easily see why you'd put us together, and I think that's something really nice about the project that you're doing, which is like you're genuinely putting thought into kind of curating who you put together. I've seen it with other episodes too, where it's quite clear that people know why they're there, if you get me. And so with Sean, yeah, absolutely. In the episode, really vibed with each other. He actually put out a book since then, asked me for his thoughts on that. It was a really, a very deep and thoughtful exercise that he embarked upon, I thought. And so he asked me for feedback on that. And then we chatted around that as well, and just really got to know each other via that. So I'm Sean will definitely be someone who I stay in touch with. That's for sure.
That's amazing. And yeah, one of those people. And I wish I don't have it. Do you have the name of that book in front of you? It's back on my shelf. The poetry book, the new book that he just did.
Jesus Christ, you put me on the spot now and I don't.
Sean DeLaney, this is your network failing you.
I don't know, maybe we
I don't even know if we'll remember to put it in the notes at this point. Sean DeLaney wrote a book, ladies and gentlemen.
I read it too, like that.
So this is the worst.
And I really enjoyed it too. So
let's see if we can come back title at some point. But this is what happens.
Yeah.
And now you know how much I edit these things by me leaving this in. So incredible. But you guys had a good time, and that's awesome that you still talk to each other. I'm not surprised at all. And I'm also not surprised that even after that conversation, he'd go, oh, by the way, I have this book that's almost done. Can I get your feedback on it? You guys are just in lockstep on a bunch of things and the way you approach, I'm sure, your client work and just life itself. You were totally vibing in that conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's always, I don't know about you, but it's a really nice affirmation along the path to just see someone that that you think well of, that you got on with, that you thought like was, saw the world a certain way, maybe with a certain degree of insight, and that you just kind of see that you're also seeing something similar. Um, you can believe in yourself, you can have trust in yourself, you can be acceptance of the way. And, that's all well and good. And it's, this life is always just nice to, I don't know, to share experiences with people, to share views, and to just kind of take some solace or kind of impetus from those kind of connections. Like I've on my desk here, I have a book. It's a really obviously well-known book called The Alchemist. I know the title of this book because it's right in front of me. But sometimes I read that over the last few years, just because it's not like it's going to tell me something new, but it kind of reminds me of what I'm doing, or it's someone from another source, maybe seeing life a little bit similarly. And it's not that if I didn't read it that I would stray from my own path or whatever, but it's a kind of a nice little affirmation along the way.
How many times have you read The Alchemist?
I think I've read it maybe 3 or 4 times.
It's one of those books, right? Like
Yeah.
You got to keep coming back to it. It looks at you from the shelf,
It's like a comforting like pat on the back or something like that.
Right. It's a comforting pat on the back. Extra shout outs to other friend, Justin Costelli. He hasn't written a book yet, so we can't forget the name of his book yet. But yeah, it's one of those books. It's a comforting pat on the back. It's begging you off. So we're going to play this clip in a second here. You're going to guess why I felt like I needed to share this with you, but I'm really excited to play this, talk about this. Producer Jack, go ahead, roll this clip. Let's see if the audience at home can guess why we're doing this.
I was reading this like Buddha for Dummies or Buddha for Beginners book or something. And this Western guy was like explaining Buddhism to other Western people who really can't grasp that, like, the yin yang thing, the white and the black and the black and the white. And he was just like, enlightenment is just remembering. And I was like, wow, that hit it. Cause I was like, then all of a sudden it was like, okay, I'm 11 and I'm like doing, racing at Wellwood Elementary against, Josh and Evan and David and Ira and the kids that were in my class. And it all came, and it was like, oh, dude, that's the real me. That was a moment that I had. I remember where I was. I was down in the Keys, sitting on a chaise lounge chair, reading Buddha for Dummies or Buddha for Beginners. That was a moment right there.
Okay, I need to layer on here because one of my ultimate books, the one that I've read multiple times, it was given to me in high school, actually, and it's Thinking Bodies, Dancing Minds. And it's the only book I've read multiple times, but it's Tao Sports for Everyday Life. And so as a high school athlete, where I was a head case and didn't have a whole lot of mindset tools, a coach gave it to me. And this book just connected kind of exactly what you're talking about, Phil, where it's just like all of the things that you might pull from the Tao, like being able to pull it into your everyday life and not in a super religious way, but in a really practical way. And so it weaves together Tao plus sports plus business. And so it's been a guiding kind of principle book ever since.
So Mark, before we jump back in, When Life Begins to Whisper, does that book title ring a bell to you?
It does indeed, yeah.
The great Sean DeLaney. Go to Amazon right now, When Life Begins to Whisper. That's the book we couldn't remember the name of. But now I want to talk to you about this clip. So Phil Pearlman, Jessica Yarmey, what hits you when you're listening to them talk about this stuff, and listening to Phil especially saying enlightenment is just remembering?
First of all, it's a beautiful expression. And I think it's one of those expressions that if you were to just sit with it that something probably within you would kind of loosen or unravel a little bit, maybe even take the pressure off some of this life. And to me, it definitely speaks to, I think that a lot of what we're trying to pursue and kind of desperately seek in terms of whether it's a self-development path or ideas around mindfulness, it's more about revealing or remembering something that's innate rather than creating or constructing something or adding on to what we already are.
This idea of reveal, not add. So like it's already there. Maybe it was always there. But you have to actually take away, not build stuff on top of it.
Well, let's put it like this, right? Like the idea that I'm ever not being, like how would, unless I've ceased to exist, how could I not be? And yet how could so many of us feel that we struggle with the idea of being and not doing? And then we even get into very kind of, I think misdirected ideas around what being is, almost that it would be this passive approach to life, or that you wouldn't be actually moving, or that you'd only be sitting in stillness. Like I can feel like I'm in a state of being while paying attention to another human being, while being in like giving someone else my attention. It's not like I feel I'm in this forceful effort right now to find the next words that are tripping out of my mouth, if you know what I mean. So, but I think it probably speaks a lot to the overly indexed idea we have of productivity, performing and producing, to the point that we've, even if you think about the idea of flow, for a while there, we were obsessing about how you cultivate the right ingredients to develop a sense of flow almost on demand, and almost discounting then areas of our life or periods of our life where we're either not in flow or we're not producing or we're not productive, as like almost like wasting our time, or labeling that as procrastination. Whereas I think there's something about coming more into an acceptance of this life, an acceptance of the fluctuations, the movements, like there are in every other aspect of nature if we look at it. It's the same in human beings. Yet we're looking to almost, commoditize or make a process out of just living, breathing processes. Like something that comes to mind for me very quickly is when my wife was pregnant, she wasn't saying to me, "Oh, this month I'm growing the arm." The baby was developing inside her, and she wasn't in control of that process, yet it was happening.
Are you a Nassim Taleb fan? Have you read any of those books?
Is that the anti-fragile stuff? Or
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah. It's one of the many books on my Kindle that I've started to read and haven't broken the double-digit percentage yet.
It's dense. They're all dense.
Yeah. Right.
But there's an idea, and I'm going to butcher what it is, but it's basically this idea of like birds don't go to Harvard to learn to fly.
Right.
Like it's not like you have to understand, and it's teleo something or other. It's like you don't have to understand physics. The bird didn't have to go take advanced physics to get off the ground. The bird just gets off the ground.
Yeah.
The wife didn't have to say like, today's a good day for a left ear.
Yeah.
Let's give this a go. There's a lot of life where it's there. And I wonder, connected directly, because this is especially important in a world of everybody wants to get, and apparently forget the title of, their favorite self-help book of the moment. The idea that we scaffold this stuff on top of what's already there, if we would just admit we just need to drill down, not build up. Like Jessica talks about getting this book in high school in this clip, and about applying it to, her life in sports and how she thinks about competition and whatever else. Is there also a way information can exist sort of like outside of us, but instead of it adding on top, it actually reveals something inside?
Yeah, like I don't think any of this stuff has to be in competition with each other, if you get me. Like, or that they exist as isolated absolutes. There was something I thought really simplistic about after that sentence was shared around, enlightenment is remembering that he goes on to reference all the different school kids that he was racing against, which
Shout
was
out to
kind of,
Josh, Evan, and Naira.
yeah,
Also there. Yeah.
but just but just even that had like me remembering, I was like, man, I can't remember any of my primary school friends or something. And then names started coming back, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But even just the simplicity of those moments. And once again, I don't think this being and doing thing have to be in, or, being and then action, and things are always going to have a consequence wherever they're coming from. Whether it's from a state of being or doing, something will still be happening. Do you know what I mean? I think that
Right.
there's a misconception, I think, of just what that sometimes entails. And I think a lot of this, and maybe this is my own misunderstanding, who knows, but a lot of what I'm boiling life down to is, can I pay attention and can I express who I am or what I am? And whatever comes from there or whatever comes from that is just what it's just an unfolding thing. Like I could plan in the present moment, for example. Like I can do many things in the present moment. It's not this, I don't know, it's not just a state where I have to, my thoughts have to remain just solely here. I can be deliberate in my thought. I can be deliberate with my intention.
I'm shortcutting through this because the spoiler is you're going to guess why I wanted to show you this clip. But a big part of it is because the guess, slight spoiler until you try to take a stab at why I thought you needed to comment on this, is it's actually a question on the other side of this card. But you're scratching at it already. Take a guess. Why do you think I thought you'd vibe with this, with Phil and Jessica here?
I would say that it's a grounded application almost of mindful ideas in just living life. And that it's not in, I don't know, that it's not reinventing or adding on. It's just it's a kind of a paying attention to life as it is. That this is what came up for me when I was watching it. Maybe it's not the same track that you're on, but it's, so for example, I was far more militant almost about my mindfulness practices when I began. Okay.
Say what define militant. Give me an example.
Like, an hour in the morning, an hour in the evening, very much on this kind of Vipassana trend. And I remember, I forget the name of this person. It was Rinpoche something or another. And he was saying something like the idea of mindfulness in the West is, it's almost like the equivalent of having a diet and only having a carrot for breakfast and then having a giant pizza for lunch and dinner with a side of Coke and fries and everything else. And it's almost like this idea that we do our mindfulness stuff, but then the way we engage with social media, the way we, get distracted with so many things and the things we chase and everything else. And for me, what's been really interesting is the more I pay attention to life itself, the more I pay attention to, like, for example, one of the things I do is I turn my phone on once a week. When my focus in life has moved away just from, analyzing myself to the nth degree, like how can I analyze myself anymore, or how can I fixate on what I need to change about myself? And I just start paying attention to the fluctuations of life. Like I really start paying attention to the people that I'm engaged with, paying attention to the seasons of nature, whatever it may be. When I do that, I feel far more in flow with life. And I think something happens when our self-development or self-inquiry, when it stops at a point where it's only focused on ourselves and we have this very compartmentalized expression of that. I think it keeps us stuck in our concentration may improve, our self-awareness may improve, lots of things may improve, but I think it limits us to the point where it keeps us still hindered from actually feeling like we're a part of life. We're a part of this world, that you and I are in some ways connected. It limits that. And for me, that's something that just the simplicity of moments where people are pointing to, even in the clip of feeling that sense of being or connection, if it's in a race, however many years ago.
So what I wrote down was, does being present require loving or finding love for our past and potential futures? And a big part of that in just what you just said, and I'm still going to put the question to you, the way you just explained it, it's like I have to, not just in a self-absorbed way, but actually like showing love to all the things that might come, show the love to all the things that were behind me, and just not getting caught up in whatever else they mean or whatever else they represent, or not being anxious about it, not hating part of your past, or being obsessive over what's going to happen next on the calendar and the to-dos. Like, you really have to like turn a love towards all the things that are outside of the present moment to even have a chance at loving the present moment, it feels. How would that hit you?
You know, I heard someone say that there's no difference between love and attention. And I really like that. And for me, what comes up is I would say my relationship with myself has changed quite dramatically over the last few years. And for some context, my exploration started with seeing a therapist 10 years ago, with getting into meditation, journaling, reading certain psychology, all the stuff, going on different retreats, whatever it might be. And I would say, if you can really just sit with what is, if you can really sit with yourself, there's almost like this process of getting to know yourself again. And also, if you can remain present enough to what is, there's almost like this self-acceptance self-acceptance. I think sometimes people try to pursue it by trying to go to purity or perfection, and then I'll accept myself. I think if you can be present to what is and express from that, I think there's a huge amount of love or acceptance that comes from, okay, now I'm just being the thing that I'm supposed to be. Like a tree, that tree over there is living its purpose because it's being that tree. And so I think it's not even, it's not that I don't wince sometimes when I think about things that I've done. Do you know what I mean? And at the same time, there's an almost immediate relaxing of you are all that you are, and you are all that you've done. And if without doing certain things, you wouldn't be who you are right now. And I don't know, I heard one person who I interviewed once said, everyone is the perfect expression of everything they've been through. And this isn't about lowering standards, or abdicating responsibility, or not seeing yourself clearly. But I think when you really start to pay attention to yourself, and you start to see the complexity of life anyway, we were just talking before this just of, huge traumatic experiences in different people's lives, really making you think about what the hell this is all about. Hearing even this week of different people describing really heavy situations, and still something really small like what am I going to have for dinner still is a valid question, even in the face of, considerable adversity or struggle, whatever it might be. So there's something about, the more you hold an attention, the more you kind of realize you're a part of it all, the more you kind of realize that, if I pay attention to my life and I see that, okay, I'm trying to, or, I'm exhibiting a certain amount of awareness. I'm falling down, I'm getting up. I kind of have my own best interests at heart. Maybe I can cut this character a bit of slack that seems to be trying to do its best and yet still remains human, all too human,
There is something perfect about that. It changes the way we define the word perfect, probably.
Yeah.
Right.
But in that, I think it's it's just attention. And whether that's in whatever thing you're reflecting on, if you're just giving yourself some degree of attention, I think that's where our relationship with ourselves can really shift. And I've written about this a lot before. Just the idea of the attention I pay other people is there's nothing like it. You know, there's nothing that's going to make up for that. Like there's no, despite whatever values our culture may have, like you won't get away from the fact that whether you paid someone attention or not, like in terms of quality or depth of relationships. And I think the same goes for ourselves.
Do we do the little heart things now? Is that what yeah.
Why not?
Why not? That was beautiful. I can't top that. Mark, I need you to tell the people how they get you in their network, where they find you online, where do they get more Mark McCartney in their lives?
Yeah, I write a bit on LinkedIn, so maybe if we include that in the notes or something. Then there's also my podcast and newsletter, which is called What is a Good Life, which is just on whatisagood.life. There's a website that I've been meaning to do for a long time. So that's in the works. But those are the two main places. Present Mark is accessible on LinkedIn and What is a Good Life.
Fantastic. I highly recommend seek Mark out. Give him your attention, people. Give him your attention. He's earned it, I think. Thanks so much for coming on the show. We're out.
Pleasure as always, Matt.
Thanks for joining us. Like, comment, and hey, subscribe below to Cultish Creative on YouTube if you haven't already. As the good compliance people want me to remind you, Matt Zeigler, that's me, is a managing director at Sunpoint Investments. The opinions expressed in this podcast do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Sunpoint Investments. No information on this podcast should be construed as investment advice. Securities discussed in the podcast may be holdings of clients of Sunpoint Investments. I hope you've been entertained. I hope you found this useful. I hope you talk to a professional before you try any of this stuff at home. And most of all, I hope you've subscribed. Be nice to each other out there. And don't forget, head over to cultishcreative.com and let's make curiosity a habit together. And I'm out.